Have you ever wondered if a place can breathe? Not the way trees rustle when the wind moves through them, or the creaks of old wood expanding in the sun. I mean, really breathe. Like the land itself is inhaling slowly, holding it in, waiting, watching. That's how Whispering Seasons Park felt the first time I stepped through its gate. The kind of silence that makes your skin itch. Like the quiet is just the sound of something holding its breath, like it's been waiting for you. Not in a comforting way, but like a trap that's grown patient. And no, I didn't go there looking for thrills or nostalgia or some feel-good seasonal vibes. I went because of a letter. It arrived on a Thursday. I remember that because it had been raining all morning and my cheap mailbox was leaking again. Most of the junk mail inside was soggy beyond recognition, but one envelope was bone dry, plain white, no return address, no name. Just my apartment number written in blocky printed letters. I opened it, half expecting a scam or some cryptic coupon offer. Instead, I pulled out a single sheet of paper, folded twice, thick and yellowed like it came from an old filing cabinet. There was a faint, almost ghosted logo at the top, Whispering Seasons Park, now hiring for seasonal help. Beneath that, in clean black ink, we remember your application. A position has opened. 1 week, $7,000, housing included. You will follow the rules. Failure to follow them will result in immediate dismissal. I stared at it, read it again, then again. I'd never applied to any theme park. Hell, I hadn't even heard of one called Whispering Seasons. But I had just lost my job at the hardware store. My landlord was blowing up my phone about rent. I had $23.17 in my checking account. No prospects, no backup plan. There's a moment where fear stops feeling like panic and starts feeling like gravity. Like it's pulling you somewhere you don't want to go, but can't resist. That's what this felt like. At the bottom of the letter was an address. And 7 rules. Rules for seasonal workers, Whispering Seasons. Park 1. You must not be outside between 2 a.m. and 3 a.m. 2. If a ride is running by itself, do not approach it. 3. Do not enter the autumn hall after midnight no matter what you hear. 4. If you hear laughter coming from the petting zoo, leave that area immediately. 5. Between 1 p.m. and 1:15 p.m., do not speak to anyone wearing green face paint. 6. If you find leaves falling indoors, follow them, but only if they're red. 7. The man in the harvest mask is not an employee. Do not make eye contact. It didn't look like a joke. It looked institutional, official in that outdated kind of way, like it came from an office that hadn't updated its equipment since the 80s. My fingers hovered over the paper, tempted to crumple it, toss it, and walk away. But that desperate, broken, sleep-deprived part of me, the part that had started scanning Craigslist for plasma donation centers, had already made up its mind. So I packed my duffel bag. The next morning, I was driving through a narrow stretch of highway that curved like a snake through dense, mist-choked woods. No signs, no gas stations, just a cold fog that seemed to press against the windows like it was trying to get inside. And then I saw it. A rusted metal archway, half covered in vines, hidden behind trees like it had been trying to vanish from the world. Beneath the arch, hanging crookedly on a chain, was a weather-warped wooden sign, staff only. That was it. No ticket booth, no welcome center, not even the name of the park. The moment I stepped through that gate, the wind stopped. Not slowed, stopped. The air went still. Heavy. Oppressive. It was like entering a vacuum sealed off from the rest of the world. Even the trees looked like they were holding their breath. He was waiting for me just inside the gate. A man in a brown uniform that looked starched and ancient, like it had survived a few world wars. His skin was pale, almost gray, and his smile. It didn't reach his eyes. They were glassy, unreadable, too still. "You're the new hire," he said without any hint of a question. He handed me a folded map and a dull gold pin that read, Seasonal Crew in small block letters. I'm Vernon, management, he added, like it was a statement of fact, not an introduction. Stick to your route, follow the rules, don't wander. No paperwork, no ID check, no training, no safety briefing. Just Vernon pointing toward a dirt path behind the carousel and walking away. The staff dorm was a wooden cabin tucked behind a rusting carousel. It looked like something out of a horror movie. Single bulb overhead, cracked windows, a mattress thinner than my willpower. No schedule, no list, just a clipboard on the nightstand that said, task assignments will be delivered as needed. No shift time, no job title, just, you'll work when we tell you to.
It should have been enough to make me leave right then, but desperation fogs your instincts, makes you ignore the rotten smell under the floorboards because the room is free, makes you pretend you don't hear dragging footsteps outside your window at night because you really need that paycheck. That first night, nothing happened. I lay on the mattress, eyes fixed on the ceiling, counting slow seconds. The silence outside was so complete that even my own heartbeat sounded intrusive. Around 2 a.m., I remembered Rule 1. You must not be outside between 2 a.m. and 3 a.m. I stayed put, pulled the covers up and squeezed my eyes shut. But my ears didn't cooperate. Scrape. Scuff. I thought I heard something, footsteps, slow, uneven, dragging ones. I told myself it was the wind, maybe just the trees creaking, a stray animal, my imagination. I didn't sleep. By morning, I had convinced myself the rules were just for atmosphere, a way to keep workers in line maybe, psychological trickery. I told myself that until day 2. Day 2 began like a breath you don't remember taking. I woke up disoriented, if you could call what I did, waking up. I hadn't really slept, more like hovered just beneath the surface of consciousness, too wired to dream, too drained to move. There was a new task note waiting outside my cabin, pinned to the door with a rusted nail. Summer District, trash plus, sweep. 12 noon, until finished. Do not leave assigned zone. Summer District was straight out of a dying carnival. Faded yellow booths leaned like crooked teeth. Water rides coated in mildew sat dormant, their once bright tubes sun-bleached and cracking. Plastic palm trees, bent and broken, waved in the absence of wind. The whole place stank of hot rubber, old sugar, and something else underneath, something metallic and wet. There were no guests, not one other employee in sight. Just that same eerie stillness hanging over everything, like the world had been paused. Even the seagulls seemed to avoid this place. I kept sweeping, eyes flicking between shadows and my watch, because Rule 5 haunted me more than I wanted to admit. Between 1 p.m. and 1:15 p.m., do not speak to anyone wearing green face paint. It was too specific, too real. Rules like that don't come from nowhere. I checked my watch again. 12:59 p.m. The minute hand clicked forward like a loaded gun. At exactly 1:02 p.m. I saw him. He was standing at the far end of the midway, just beyond an abandoned hot dog stand. His entire face was painted green, sloppy and thick like someone had used finger paint. Even his lips were coated. No expression. Not quite blank, but something close. Something broken. His mouth was slightly open, his eyes wrong, empty and still, like they hadn't blinked in a long time. He started walking toward me, casual, slow steps, the kind of walk people use when they think they own the space between you. I looked down, pretended to sweep, my grip tightened on the broom. The muscles in my back screamed to run, but I kept moving, mechanically. "Hey," he called out, his voice flat and artificial. "You dropped something." I didn't look up, didn't answer, just pushed dirt that wasn't there. "Hey," he said again, sharper now, "come back." My pulse slammed against my ribs, my mouth went dry. Still, I kept moving. "You dropped your face," he growled. That stopped me cold. Then came the laugh.
if you can even call it that. It started high, like a giggle, then dropped into a thick, choking sound, like someone laughing with a throat full of water. It echoed off the empty booths and broken ride panels like a children's playground collapsing. I bolted. I didn't think. I just ran. I didn't look back. At 1:16 p.m., I stopped. He was gone. That night, I couldn't sleep. Again. The park didn't have clocks, but I knew it was close to midnight when the wind picked up, finally. It rattled the cabin walls, whispered through the cracks like it was trying to say something. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the list of rules I had taped to the wall. That's when I noticed something was off. There were 8 rules now. I didn't remember a new letter. I didn't remember writing anything down, but there it was, typed in the same font, same spacing. Like it had always been there. 8. If your reflection frowns when you smile, hide. Do not let it follow you. I grabbed the original from my duffel bag, the one that came in the envelope. 7 rules, just like before, but the copy on my wall? 8. The paper even looked aged, yellowed more than it had been this morning. The corners curled like it had been hanging there for years. I didn't have time to process it because that's when something tapped on the window. Tap, then silence, tap, slower, like a fingernail. I peeked through the blinds. No one was there. But the ground outside looked wrong, too dark, wet, even though it hadn't rained, and the grass was bent in 2 different directions, like someone had been pacing in a circle. I checked my phone. 2:11 a.m. My stomach turned to stone. Rule 1. You mustn't be outside between 2 a.m. and 3 a.m. I stepped away from the window and sat on the floor, back against the bed, trying to steady my breathing. The doorknob began to turn. Slow and deliberate, clicking back and forth. Then it began to turn again. Then back. Then again. No knock, no voice, no footsteps. Just the metal twisting quietly like someone testing it. Over and over. Again. I backed into the corner of the room, sat on the floor and covered my ears. My breathing was ragged. I couldn't look at the door anymore. I was convinced it would open if I saw it move. It didn't stop for nearly 20 minutes. Eventually, it stopped. I didn't sleep a second. By the 4th day, I was a mess. I hadn't slept more than an hour at a time. I had started seeing things, people just standing still in the distance, not moving. Sometimes they blinked, sometimes they didn't. My next area was called the Autumn Hall, a giant indoor pavilion made to look like a permanent Halloween festival. Plastic skeletons, animatronic pumpkins, fake leaves glued to every surface, fog machines. It was big, dark, musty. The assignment was simple: clean up guest debris near the back corner. I worked fast, didn't want to be in there long. The air was too still, the lights flickered on their own, and the soundtrack, some looping off-brand spooky music, skipped every 30 seconds. I was just about finished when I heard it. A whisper, software, like someone exhaling my name inside a dream. And then, a soft, knocking sound, faint but unmistakable. It echoed from the far side of the hall near the harvest maze. I glanced at my phone. It was 12:06 a.m., and I remembered Rule 3. Do not enter the Autumn Hall after midnight, no matter what you hear. I backed away from the sound, dropped my broom without meaning to, and then I saw him, a figure, tall, unmoving, standing at the entrance to the harvest maze. He wore a burlap harvest mask, stitched with black thread around the mouth, carved eye holes shaped like slits. No part of his skin was visible, just that mask and a coat the color of rotted hay. He tilted his head, but not like a person. It was too sharp, too sudden, like something had tugged a string and his neck had no bones. I couldn't breathe, couldn't blink, because I remembered Rule 7. The man in the harvest mask is not an employee. Do not make eye contact. But I couldn't look away. I didn't break eye contact. I couldn't. It felt like something was pulling my head forward, forcing my eyes into his. Not hypnosis, something stronger, like a hook behind my thoughts. Then he took a step. The fog near his feet twitched, twisted, moved like it had its own muscles. My knees buckled. I blinked, and he was gone. Just gone. All that remained was a trail of red leaves, spiraling into the shadows near the back corridor. And then it hit me. Rule 6. If you find leaves falling indoors, follow them, but only if they're red. I stood there shaking, stuck between two kinds of fear. What happens if I don't follow them? And what happens if I do? But I followed. The trail of red leaves led into a narrow service corridor I had never seen before. It shouldn't have existed. I'd been through the autumn hall earlier that day. There was no back passage then, but now, the air was colder. The lights buzzed above me with the low hum of dying electricity. My breath came out in white plumes. Each leaf on the floor was too perfect. No wear, no tear, just vivid crimson, untouched by time or footsteps. It was like someone had carefully arranged them one by one. The hallway stretched longer than it should have. I passed what felt like 5 exit doors, but none opened. They were sealed or fake, set pieces maybe. The walls grew tighter, more claustrophobic, like the building itself was closing in around me. Then I saw her, a girl, maybe 10 or 11, pale skin, barefoot, wearing a faded Whispering Seasons staff shirt that hung off her like a hospital gown. She stood perfectly still at the end of the hall, one red leaf pinched between her fingers. I stopped. Are you okay?" I asked, my voice barely louder than a whisper. She didn't answer. Instead, she raised the leaf slowly, pressed it against her face like a mask. When she pulled it away, it wasn't her face anymore. It was mine, but dead, gray, dried out, skin like cracked clay, mouth hanging open in a permanent, silent scream. My eyes, her eyes, were rolled back into the sockets. Then she spoke, but not with her mouth. Her voice came from inside the walls, like it had been recorded through a dying speaker and played back from a tunnel made of ash. "He watches you when you blink." My throat constricted like it had swallowed ice. I backed away. The lights overhead began to flicker violently, then popped, one by one, plunging the hall behind me into darkness. I ran. I don't remember which way I turned, or how far I sprinted, or whether the hallway changed behind me, but eventually I slammed through a side door and spilled out into the cold night air. I didn't stop. I ran back to the cabin, threw open the door. My hands were trembling so badly I could barely grip the zipper on my duffel bag. I didn't care about the money anymore. I didn't care about Vernon. I just wanted out. But something was wrong. The air inside the cabin smelled sweet, sickly, like burnt fruit or overripe meat. The mirror, hanging just above the dresser, was smeared with fingerprints from the inside. I froze. That hadn't been there before. The glass had been clean. I would have noticed. I inched closer, heart pounding so loudly it drowned out everything else. Just to prove it wasn't real, I forced myself to smile. A weak, shaky grin. My reflection didn't smile back. It frowned. Exactly like Rule 8 warned, if your reflection frowns when you smile, hide. Do not let it follow you. I stepped back. The reflection didn't. It just stood there, watching me. Then it moved. The vines were thicker now. They'd grown up the metal arch, curling like veins around bone. Some of them pulsed faintly, like they were alive. I clawed my way up and over, skin tearing against thorns and rusted edges. I dropped onto the other side with a grunt and didn't stop running. The woods stretched in every direction. I picked a path. Any path. Just away. Branches slapped my face. Roots caught my feet. I fell more than once, but kept getting up. After what felt like hours, I saw it. The gate. The same rusted arch. The same crooked sign. Stafffonly. I had looped back. I tried another path, then another. Same result. Every direction, every turn, back to the park. And that's when I noticed the trees. Every leaf was red. No green, no brown. Just endless, blood-colored foliage fluttering in the windless air. They weren't part of a season. They were a signal. The park had changed. It had shifted, adapted. It wasn't autumn or summer or spring. It was me. I'm writing this from inside the carousel now. It hasn't moved in hours, but it hums sometimes, like it's breathing. Or waiting. I've torn the rules sheet off the wall. It doesn't matter anymore. It changed again. There's a 9th rule now, typed just like the rest. 9. If you think you've escaped, you haven't. The park has a new season now, and it's named after you. I don't know how long I've been here. The sun doesn't rise like it used to. Time drips instead of ticking. Sometimes I hear footsteps on the gravel outside the carousel. Sometimes I hear my own voice calling from the woods. And once, just once, I saw someone walk past wearing my face, but it wasn't a mask, it was skin. So if you ever get a strange letter in the mail, no return address, no signature, just a tempting offer and a list of rules that read more like warnings, burn it. Because Whispering Seasons Park doesn't just hire help, it collects stories. It takes people who don't follow the rules and turns them into asterisk attractions asterisk. You won't just work there. You'll become one of the seasons. You'll become one of the attractions. And eventually, someone else will follow the red leaves, straight to you.